Let's go review a movie. Alright. Well, hello, heavy metal fans. I'm Awesome Thomas, and this is...
Rocking Ruby.
Rocking Ruby. Alright, I like it. And today, for this bodacious review, we're going to be reviewing heavy metal.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, heavy metal. This is awesome, man. This is like, in terms of importance, this is the GOAT in terms of heavy metal, pretty much.
Yeah, there are so many things to say about this. It's hard to know where to start.
Well, I know where to start. With this handy-dandy little notepad. So, I'm going to tell you a little history about heavy metal. So, did you know that heavy metal is not an American or a Canadian property?
No?
No, in fact, it actually started out as a comic book in Europe.
Oh yeah, that's right. It explains a lot about it.
It was actually started by a publishing company in France, where it was very popular in Paris, actually. It was like way back in the 70s, man. Back when the music was, really metal. But that's besides the point. The point was, it was a magazine that was known for publishing little short comics. Now, most of these comics had to do with stuff like sci-fi, fantasy, sexuality, violence, and of course, groovy music. Hence the term heavy metal. And, more importantly, it got the attention of a particular film producer. It got the attention of a fella from National Lampoon named Len Mogale. Len Mogale? It's hard to say his name. Yeah, so Len here was one of the writers for National Lampoon. Like the National Lampoon in America and all that.
Yeah, I know.
And he was in France. I don't remember what exactly he was doing there. I think he was... Let me see. Oh yeah, he was... basically, he was just having vacation in France at the time. And while he was there, he picked up a copy of the Heavy Metal magazine, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
And he was so awestruck by all the stories and stuff, everything was in there. It was sort of like the go-to guide for anyone who was into looking for metal stuff, whether it be news or comics or even shorts and stuff. But more importantly, it got him interested. And they said, what if this was a movie?
Yeah.
Well, the problem was, at first, when he pitched the idea for the movie to a bunch of studios, they really didn't want to make it.
Well, it's probably because of all the
the risque stuff. One studio said it's too European. One person said it's too risque. We'll get sued by a lot of the conservatives at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people said, how the hell are we going to film it? Because they at first thought about making it into a live action thing, but that probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that route.
Because, well, first of all, if they did try to do live action, they estimated it would have been extremely expensive. Like, really expensive. But this was a very golden opportunity in Hollywood at the time. Because, picture for me, if you will, you're a person alive in the 70s.
Okay.
Can you picture?
Not really, but go ahead.
Okay, so what's a very popular subgenre for films during the 70s? Any guess?
No.
Animated films.
Yeah.
Because now that, animation was getting popular again, thanks to new sort of avant-garde artists and all that stuff, well, animation was getting into a new direction. For the longest time, well, animation when it first started out was seen as something more for,
Kids.
For kids, yeah. It was seen just for kids, pretty much.
Which I think is just unfair.
I know, right? There's so many opportunities you can do with animation if you have a wider audience for it. But the 70s, that's when animators thought, why does it have to be just for kids? Why not make stuff for adults? It'd be pretty cool, right?
Anyways. voice, yes.
So, thanks to the success of a lot of adult animated-oriented films like Fritz the Cat, or I think there were also a couple other animated things for adults, it got people interested in that. And since heavy metal was seen as a bit of an underground kind of nouveau kind of stuff, you know. Basically, they were like the early version of hipsters, basically. I liked heavy metal before it was cool, man. Pretty much. So, the producer dude got in contact with another producer friend of his, a fellow by the name of Ivan Reitman. And why do you think that name sounds familiar? Well, let's just say, if there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Yeah, Ivan Reitman's the producer of Ghostbusters, folks.
That probably explains some of the casting choice.
Actually, yes, because around this time, Ivan Reitman was mostly known for working with a lot of Canadian broadcasting stuff at the time. Particularly stuff like, let's see, SCVU, and a couple other shows. Basically, they were kind of like the Canadian version of Saturday Night Live and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they were known for getting a lot of up-and-coming talent, such as John Candy, Eugene Levy, Rick Moranis, and stuff like that. And Ivan said, I'll tell you what, if you can get the money from a studio, I can get the cast and the crew ready so we can make this thing happen, pretty much. And eventually, they did find a person that can help them with this. Paramount.
Yes.
Which is weird, because Paramount originally didn't want to do it, actually.
Probably took some time to convince them.
No, it took some money to convince them.
That too. Anyways.
Yeah, so, they got as much funding as they could. They promised, they made the pitch to Paramount. Paramount took the pitch. Ivan Reitman got a lot of his friends to both work on the film and voice some of the characters on the thing. There was just one last thing they needed. The most important element for any heavy metal movie.
The music.
The music. Oh, the beautiful, beautiful music.
And there's a lot of like big name like heavy metal artists in this thing.
I think I saw Black Sabbath, Nazareth, Journey, Cheap Trick. Oh,
who else?
the lead singer from that one band. I think it was.
I think Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, Stevie Nicks. Sammy Hagar.
Yes.
Dan something, I forget his name. A bunch of others. Basically, they wanted to make this movie's soundtrack to be the definition of metal in the 80s. Because I'll admit, some of the music in this is, what I wouldn't call too heavy metal.
Well, back in the day, it was seen as...
This was the heavy shit, man.
Yeah.
And believe me, if any self-respecting metal nerd is out there, you need to watch this movie to get sort of like your first hit of heavy metal to get to the harder stuff. It's kind of like me. I started out with, like, I have to admit, I started out with like Metallica, AC/DC, and then I moved into the more harder stuff, pretty much.
Well, I will admit, I'm more, as you can tell from my shirt, I'm more of the alternative rock, punk kind of music. But I do enjoy heavy metal music.
Hipster.
I'm not a hipster.
So, they got everything they wanted now.
Yes.
The cast, crew, the music, and it all came to dig it together.
They just need the animation.
And the animation's a bit of an interesting thing. Some of it's totally animated, like totally animated.
But some of them is rotoscope.
Yes, I did notice that there was a ton of rotoscoping used in a lot of it, especially with the character movements, actually. They based a lot of the character movements on how the actors would have moved, actually.
Kind of reminds me from that music video Take On Me.
Kind of. In fact, it could be argued because it took so long for them to make this movie, right?
Yeah.
And as they were making this movie, a little thing called MTV came out.
Yes.
Yeah, because when heavy metal was being made, MTV came out and heavy metal became really, really popular, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the music videos that were shown were, well, music videos that we know nowadays, like
I know.
Video Kill the Radio Star, Take On Me, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And because of getting their exposure with that, that's what a lot of the inspiration came for the heavy metal stuff, especially with the animation, pretty much. And you can tell just from the opening, pretty much.
Oh yeah, especially the one where the astronaut.
The astronaut in the Corvette's coming out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. If only we traveled like that.
And so, we get our first scene, pretty much.
Yes.
Some little house in the prairie, I think, or something.
That's a nice house, by the way.
I just have a question. Where exactly are they? It looks like they're on Earth, but where?
Somewhere in a prairie field kind of part. But the only problem is where, because that could be like literally anywhere in the world.
To be fair, though, this was made with Canadian people. Maybe it's Saskatchewan.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Very flat lands, you know.
Flatlands.
Wheat everywhere.
Hello, Molly.
There's our heavy metal dog. She's a heavy metal nut.
Maniacal Molly?
Maniacal Molly, I love it.
Molly, are you wanting to be part of this video?
No, she doesn't. She just wants food.
She's just like, no, I'm good. I will say, though.
She does want to hear about one thing. What does the astronaut bring?
He brings the villain of our
movie.
the Lochnar.
Lochnar, or as he calls himself, I am the son of all evil. A green jawbreaker? Or
It's
a
actually
green sour ball?
looks more like a giant green glowing emerald.
Well, it is described as some sort of jewel or something like that.
And the weirdest thing is that this thing can shrink and grow in different sizes.
Wait a second. A jewel that can shrink and grow at any size, and it's evil and has a mind of its own. Did they steal a little bit from Tolkien there?
Tom, everybody copied from Tolkien.
Okay. That's fair. So, we have our Lochnar. He kills her dad because...
In a very fucking brutal way, might add.
Yeah, I mean, he just melts, man.
He didn't even touch it yet.
He didn't touch it, and the thing just instantly melts him.
Like, Jesus.
But it didn't kill his daughter for some reason.
Well, we'll get to that in a moment.
So, he's gonna tell her some stories.
He basically shows her all the evil crap that he's done over the few generations.
Yeah, seems about right. So,
and that's when we get our different stories.
first one, we got Harry Canyon.
Harry.
Look, that's the name.
Sorry, who came up with these names? Harry Canyon sounds like a vagina.
To be fair, this was made by a bunch of French dudes, so...
I'm sorry. But, okay, I'm just gonna say this. This story reminds me of Fifth Element.
I know! I think I asked Aaron. I asked him because when I saw the taxi that the main character was driving, it's the exact same taxi that Corbin Dallas drives in the Fifth Element, pretty much.
And the fucking dude even looks like him.
Yeah, he does. He kind of looks like a young Bruce Willis when he just still had that hair. He's even got the same dad bod that Bruce Willis has.
Might I just ask, what is sexy about the dad bod? Please comment below.
Well, before we get into that, let's also talk about the setting of this one, pretty much.
Now this one is a little, because we see these two things.
Oh yeah, the Twin Towers are in this shot. Look, this was way before 9/11, so we didn't know that would be gone in a few years. Or maybe they rebuilt them, who knows.
There have been talks of rebuilding them.
So I guess I think this is supposed to be like the future New York or something like that?
Well, I looked on the date in a newspaper that Harry Canyon is reading, and it says the date is 2031.
So 2031, that's like...
So that's like in a few years from now.
Yeah. Hey, I guess...
Where are flying cars, people?
We don't have flying cars now. And we don't have aliens walking around. Or robots. I mean, we do have robots, but they don't work quite like that.
Not exactly like that.
I gotta admit, I do really dig the look of this futuristic New York, though, actually.
All I gotta say is, where can I get a taxi like this? I want it.
And then there's that Rockefeller Center, and there's like live sex shows right beside it and all that.
Yeah.
Then we meet our main character, Harry Canyon, and no, he is not a male porn star with that name. So, what's a cabbie like in this world, do you reckon?
Oh, probably treated like absolute
shit.
Kind of like now.
Yeah, kind of like now.
Except in this case, he has a very unique way of defending himself.
Yeah, there's this one scene where this dude tries to like rob him and stuff like that.
And he just presses a button that's near his foot and it disintegrates him.
I tell you, man, them cabbies are on for the teeth always.
What? They have to be. They're dealing with a lot of shady people.
Hell yeah. Speaking of shady people, then we get to the New York Science Museum or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And we see the guy who found the Lochnar in the desert, and he gets killed.
Like, instantly.
Pretty much.
And then we see that his daughter
is running away from
these gangsters who want the Lochnar.
And she gets into Harry's cab, pretty much.
Pretty much. And she faints. Immediately.
Do you know what this sort of reminds me of?
What?
I kind of feel like each different short in heavy metal is like a different genre film.
In a way, like this one feels like a noir.
It does. We got the narrating, we got chain smoking, we got dames in need of help, we got gangsters, we got corrupt cops.
Self-monologue.
We got sort of like a grimy city exterior kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
It does feel like an awful lot like a neo-noir film, pretty much. So, Dan has to get this gal somewhere safe.
Yeah.
But he can't go to the cops because, as we find out, the cops in this freaking city are useless.
They literally ask you to pay like $1,000
Just to investigate.
just to investigate, which is like, you know what? Fuck this.
I know, like, man, I thought cops were useless now. Wait in a few years, I guess.
So instead, he takes her back to his place.
Also, are we going to ignore the fact that the cops only seem to arrest illegal aliens in that movie? Like, they're aliens that are, you know, alien aliens?
Like they don't have like their papers to
Wait a second. Do you smell that?
political humor.
I think I smell political humor, Claire. But that's besides the point. So, he brings her home, basically.
And I'm just gonna say this: he has disgusting sandwich.
I know, like, what are you eating, dude?
I don't want to know what he's eating. Every time I see
You're
it,
gonna clog all your arteries doing that.
every time I see him eat it, I'm like,
No.
no.
Unfortunately, this scene brings another thing that this film is kind of infamous for.
It's
Nudity everywhere.
nudity everywhere. Yep.
Okay, sidetrack. Look, I don't mean to be that guy, but the 80s was a different time for animated films, especially adult animated films.
Well, plus this was based on
A French comic book, and they were not known to be shy about that.
But seriously though,
I mean, that's the one thing that I'm somewhat reluctant to like in this film because it's kind of objectifying women.
you think? I'm watching this and I'm like, really?
Yeah, like she just immediately sleeps with Harry pretty much.
She's not even like, she doesn't even know him like for 5 minutes and she's banging this dude.
I'm like, okay, lady, but what do you see in this dude?
But
It doesn't matter because now that, like every noir film, once you sleep with the femme fatale, then you're in shit pretty much. Because now he's got cops warning him about the girl.
He's got gangsters coming after him.
You know, like he has to literally shoot them out of the sky with his taxi.
Seriously, I want his taxi.
I was like, if you don't pay my tab, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you, then shoot the shit out of you. Pretty much. Uber drivers don't have those.
So,
So,
he wakes up the next morning. She's gone, obviously.
but he does get the robot that gives a call to him and all that.
Yep.
Man, I want a robot like that.
Yeah. So he gets a call saying to meet her.
At the Eiffel Tower.
No, not the Eiffel Tower.
No, Lady Lib, sorry.
Lady Lib.
Sorry, wrong monument made by a Frenchman, sorry.
So, when he takes care of the people that are trailing him in his taxi, he gets to Lady Lib.
And she has the Lochnar.
And she has the Lochnar, just right there.
Where was she hiding it, I wonder? I'm just curious, did she have like a bunker or something like that?
Maybe she had a secret place that only her and her father knew it.
Or did she hide it in Lady Lib? Because as we see, landmarks in New York and that thing are treated kind of like garbage, basically.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they hid the Lochnar.
I mean, for God's sakes, the UN building in New York is now a housing project. So, they want to get rid of it.
And she talked to the gangster and said that she's deciding to get rid of it.
For a price.
For a price, which is in this case 300,000
What was it, Corona dollars?
Corona dollars.
Oh no, they infected our money too. I'm kidding.
The point being, she wants to get rid of it, and he said, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll come along for like 50% of the take."
Pretty much.
Which is 6,000 of it.
Also, she's a great piece of tail, but you know. So, they go there. And they drop it off.
And they drop it off. She gets the money, and then they take off.
And the gangster, like an idiot, just grabs the Lochnar with his bare hands.
And turns into a pilot.
What is it with people in this thing just thinking they can grab the piece of terrifying evil with their bare hands?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, come on. He looked like a diseased scrotum.
To be fair, he's probably Jabba the Hutt's Don Consigliere, Greedo Corleone.
So, in the taxi...
They're gonna go.
You
think it's happy ever after.
You think it's happily ever until you realize, nope, she's trying to rip him off.
She tries to steal from him, basically, right?
Yep.
But she forgot.
He has that secret weapon.
Exactly. Smart broad. Kinda greedy, though. But
So, she's dead, he takes off with the money, and then that's the end of that story.
if you had to rate that story, what would you rate it?
I would actually say that it's pretty good. Again, I fucking feminist side of me is like, this is a piece of shit.
Okay.
If they toned down the sexuality stuff by like half, I would.
What'd you rate it?
It would be good.
No, what would you rate it?
If I had to rate each story out of like 10 out of,
But just rate this story now.
I'll rate this story. So for this story, it's good. Again, not so good with the sexuality stuff. That's my only concern in this one.
What number would you give it?
I'd probably give it a 7, only just because.
Okay, that's fair. I gotta admit, I love the art style for this, and it's got a pretty interesting cast. Like, you're gonna find out that John Candy voices almost like every character in this. It feels. So there's that. But mostly, I just like it for maybe the noir aspects. I always like noir films, and I always like noir films in different settings. So if you give it a noir in a sci-fi setting, just chef's kiss, kind of like Blade Runner almost.
So what would you rate it?
I give this a, let's see. You know what? I'm gonna give it also a 7 out of 10 because I also don't like the objectification of women in a lot of these, and this one's the most gratuitous in my opinion. But,
This one?
well, then let's talk about the next story, pretty much.
So then we have the next story, and that's the,
That would be Dan.
Dan. Yes.
Dan. So, we start out in what looks to be like some suburban neighborhood, I guess.
Yeah.
And we get probably the best cast for this one with John freaking Candy as the main character. Oh, John, I miss that motherfucker.
He's a Canadian icon, and he was...
So missed. And he's really good in this one.
Oh yeah.
We get to see him actually use a lot of his good voice work in this one, actually. Because even though he's known for a lot of his live action stuff, he did do a few animated films here and there.
Yeah.
And he was known for giving a really good performance with his voice, pretty much.
So in this one, he plays a 18-year-old boy
Named Dan.
named Dan.
Dan the repairman?
He's basically a science nerd.
Yeah, I can see that.
And he finds the Lochnar in his backyard that came from space.
Now, how come he's able to lift it, though, when other people we've seen lift it just disintegrate?
I think it's...
Maybe it has something to do with how if it's at a certain power level it can kill you or something like that?
Maybe.
Because when we first see it, it's not even glowing pretty much.
Yeah, when he picks it up, it's not glowing. It's like...
It needs, like, energy, I think.
And that's why he's doing that natural science in his room.
Natural electricity, yeah.
Yeah, with some wires, bucket of water, and I think 2 metal prongs.
Pretty much. So he charges it up, but it sends him through a portal to another dimension, pretty much.
And on the way, transforms into what I can describe as The Rock.
Kind of, basically. He kind of looks like a rock without the tattoos and everything. So, he lands in this alternate dimension where the Lochnar is worshipped as a god or something like that.
Exactly.
And when he gets there, the first thing he realizes, no hair. Big.
Oh yeah, and he's definitely nude.
We see a little bit there, but then he's like, there's no way I'm going around with my dork hanging out.
And he grabs a
some sort of cloth
some
or
sort
something.
of flag that's like
Just hanging around.
Just hanging around.
And he just makes a
Little what I can call Tarzan
cosplay thing. Well, it's interesting that you say this because in the original comic that this is based off of, in the Heavy Metal magazine,
he's nude.
yeah, everyone's nude in the comic. Like, it's a whole planet where everyone is naked, pretty much. And we see everything. It's not just the ladies exposed and everything, even the fellas exposed. There's schmeckle everywhere.
I think this spot's probably my favorite.
Of course it is. So, Dan lands in the middle of what I almost can describe as a sort of Temple of Doom style sacrificial chamber thing.
Something like that, yeah.
And we see people going to murder this very buxom looking lady and everything.
And she's just basically wearing a fawn.
Yeah, most of the women in this are, though.
Yeah, it's...
And apparently he says, it looks like something out of the Ten Commandments.
All I gotta ask is, what the hell have you been reading the Ten Commandments and where can I find it? So basically there's this ritual going on. There's this gigantic, like, green pool.
And they throw her in there as a sacrifice.
And they throw her in as a sacrifice.
To some sort of god thing called Ulatik.
Yes.
So, Dan, not wasting any time, goes in and saves her. And apparently Dan's new body is like, he's got like these super powerful lungs or something like that. Mm-hmm. And, well, he gets her out, and it turns out she's also from the planet Earth.
Apparently she's from,
the British colony of Gibraltar, she says.
Exactly.
Which makes me wonder, are there more humans from Earth that landed on this dimension?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe it's like a pocket dimension where if you come in contact with the Lochner, it sends you here, pretty much.
Yeah, if it doesn't kill you.
Exactly. And, well, she shows him her gratitude, I guess.
Eternal gratitude, we'll call it.
It's definitely eternal.
But before
he can get totally lucky,
they get a little interruption.
They get interrupted by these hairless Chewbacca wannabes, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So
they take them to this
sort of temple or city.
This city temple place.
Yeah, whatever it is.
They split them up.
And then we meet this toga-wearing jerk-off named, I forget his name, it was like Arn, I believe?
Arn, I believe.
Arn? Something else.
Something like that.
And Okoye, he's also a human, which is weird because there don't seem to be a lot of humans on this one dimension.
I don't think he really is human because as we can clearly see...
Well, at one point Dan breaks a hold of them because, well, he says, you know, like, guards, castrate him.
Yeah, they're gonna castrate him.
So he's like, oh, hell no. And he beats him up and he takes the gun and he shoots the dude. But it turns out bullets don't really work on him.
Yeah, so that's why I feel like he looks human, but he really kind of isn't.
You think he might be something disguised?
Maybe.
Maybe. Or maybe he's something that's kind of like a human, but not really. If that makes sense at all. So, he makes a deal with Dan. Because, well, Catherine, the lady that he rescued, is in some sort of suspended animation chamber, I think.
Well, he encased her in glass.
Basically, he Snow Whited her.
Like, she's not dead.
She's just asleep, I think.
Yeah. And basically, he makes a deal with him saying, if you steal the Lochner from me, I'll let you and the girl go. And if you don't, you die, she dies, everyone dies.
He doesn't sound very enthused, that guy.
He sounds so bored and so sassy.
I mean, he's been what? He's like an immortal, right? He's been alive for a few thousand years, probably.
He's like, I don't have time for this crap.
I've been alive for like 10,000 years, my dude. I just can't care anymore. So, they team him up with some sort of ogre gorilla guy thing. Gnarl, yeah, that's his name. God, man, I love these names, man.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why later. But anyways, they team up, and then they go to get the Lochner.
At this other city temple place.
And they have to go through the sewer and everything.
Yeah.
That just seems to be something that happens in every fantasy thing. They always have to go through an underground sewer or something like that.
Like, you can't go through the front door, apparently.
Well, you'd get killed if you did that.
And
it doesn't matter, because there's this giant
16-inch long
crocodile
monster.
hedgehog thingy.
But when you see it, it's like, time to go.
Yeah, totally. I wouldn't want to fuck with that thing.
Yeah.
They have to split up and find the Lochner now.
Right.
They go through this sort of dark tunnel thing, and Dan's just feeling around, and he grabs
something that's round, but
squishy.
It's squishy as well. Yeah, he grabs her boobs. He grabs the queen's boobs.
To touch the royal stone, I suppose. So, all of Dan's got buddies that went with him are killed, and he's about to die.
Until the queen,
takes an interest in him.
pretty much.
I mean, she's the queen, I guess. She can fuck whoever she wants, I guess, really.
I know, and like the other like minions of hers, they're like,
Oh, not this again. Like
this
has
is-
she done this before?
she's done this before.
There don't seem to be a lot of humans on this plane of existence, so I don't know.
So it's like if she does like find one, it's like,
You gotta get what you get.
yeah.
It's either that or do it with the Fraggle Rock minions. So
Anyways,
he
they bone.
gives her the business.
He's like, wow, twice in one day.
18 years of nothing, and twice in one day. And she's speaking all this like, I love his blah 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 and all that.
And he's just lying there like, what the fuck?
I have no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think he's just like, I don't care. I got laid twice in one day. That's a milestone in my life, pretty much.
In his life.
Unfortunately, I think it's Gnarl who stole the Lochnar, maybe.
Yeah, because they said whoever gets the Lochnar first, we'll bring it back to Ard.
And well, they do, and that pisses her off pretty much.
Pretty much, and then she tries to bash his head in with a club.
Pretty much. So Dan jumps out of. He does a lot of jumping in water in this one, I realize.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he does look like Jason Statham went back in his Olympic swimming days.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, little known fact, Jason Statham was an Olympic swimmer, actually. Now you know. It wasn't just him swimming after Megs. So, he swims away, and, spoiler alert, Arn's a bad guy.
Yep.
Oh, gee, the dude that has the stereotypical tunic is a bad guy? What have I told you, man? Never trust a man in a tunic.
And of course, he's now trying to perform the ritual, and Catherine's just lying there like, not this shit again.
I almost get sacrificed twice in one day. Give me a break.
And somebody, for the love of God, get me a shirt.
Well, I don't know. This universe seems to have a pretty limited number on shirts, apparently.
I know, it's for fuck's sake.
So, Dan rushes back on a camel horse
Thing.
Noid-looking thing.
And he stops the ritual again.
And now Arn wants to use the Lochnar to kill them and all that.
And then the Queen and Ard are fighting over it.
It's like, stupid bitch, it's mine. It's mine. My Lochnar, my Lochnar.
They literally fight like siblings, and we should know.
Well, yeah. Actually, it's weird you bring up that point, because I always had a theory about Arn and the Queen, actually. I always wondered, you think they might be related? They look kind of the same.
They look kind of the same, but their hair color is a bit different, which is a bit of an off sign. But that could be from the different parent genes.
Well, I'm thinking, what if there was a king that ruled this place, and when he died, he gave up his lands to both his children, in this case, the Queen and Arn,
Yeah.
and they were to share it basically equally, kind of like King Lear in a way.
But as you can imagine, that's not a good idea.
It kind of promotes civil war and fratricide, so yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that didn't end up well, pretty much.
Yeah. So that's why they're both fighting each other.
Over the Lochnar. Speaking of which, Dan knows what to do with the Lochnar now.
He does basically the same experiment that he did.
Apparently, lightning causes it to open up a tear in the space and time and all that.
And he uses a chain
And a spear.
and a spear, throws it at the top of the
altar.
altar where they're standing and fighting over the Lochnar.
Just as Ulatex finally had enough of their shit and coming out of the ocean and all that.
He's like, God damn it, somebody give me my goddamn sacrifice. I'm waiting.
Kind of looks like a mixture of the Blob and, I don't know, some cosmic thing from a H.P. Lovecraft book mixed up together.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, lightning strikes the thing, killing Ulatek, I think. And also, I think it's said that it teleported the Arn and Queen away, maybe?
Yeah, and
Dan's like, boy, Mom's gonna be surprised. Yeah, so there's another question. How's his mom dealing with this? The fact that her boy just disappeared out of nowhere, pretty much.
And the fact that these half-naked people just showed up out of nowhere.
Let's not dwell on it. Because Dan surely doesn't dwell on it.
Yeah.
Like, for God's sakes, the Lochnar's gone, the Queen's gone, and Arn's gone.
No, the Lochnar's not gone.
Okay, technically the Lochnar's not gone, but still. the point is, now Dan's just pretty much the only one left, pretty much, with Catherine and those mutant guys.
Yeah. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it.
I don't want to be king of these people. I just want to go out in the sunset, adventuring me and my gal.
On a giant flying bug.
That's a hell of a way to go, man.
He's like, on Earth,
I'm nobody. But here, I'm Dan. And thus, a name was etched in the halls of history that would bring any mutant to bring in fear. And that name was Dan. Gotta admit, this is one of my favorite ones here in this movie.
They're all pretty good in their own way.
But this one I quite like because I liked watching a lot of those fantasy things like Lord of the Rings and Conan the Barbarian, stuff like that.
Well, this one actually kind of gave me vibes to another fantasy 80s thing that a lot of people don't know of called Beastmaster.
Oh, right, yeah, Beastmaster. I remember that. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I got a lot of vibes from also that too, but just because it's 80s thing.
The 80s and most of the women are barely wearing any clothes.
So,
pretty much. So, what's your rating on Dan?
I like Dan. He's a solid character, even though he's this like stereotypical like, oh my god, I'm living my
Fantasy thing. That's kind of what this is. It's a fantasy fulfillment thing.
It's kind of like what was that book?
Oh boy, what book?
Argon.
You mean Aragon?
Yeah, think of it.
Wait, Aragon? Like the book Aragon?
Well, think of when the author wrote it.
Oh yeah, it was kind of like a fanfic he made. Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with that, but okay.
Sorry, the point being, it's like that, like teenage fantasy kind of crap.
Okay, but if you have to rate the short overall, what would you rate it?
I enjoyed it. I really liked it. So, again, I don't like how they treat women in these. So, like, again, I'm gonna have to give it a 7 out of 10. And that's just because of how women are treated in this.
Personally speaking, I really like this one because, like I say, I was really into that sort of hack and slash fantasy stuff from the 80s that was pretty popular. And yes, it does veer into the exploitation part with the goyles also.
Yeah, pretty much.
Although, to be fair, a lot of fantasy films in the 80s were kind of guilty of that, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, so this isn't the first time we've seen it.
But personally, what really brings it around is John Candy does a phenomenal job as Dan in this, pretty much.
Oh, I miss him.
I miss him too, and I'm surprised he didn't do a lot of voice acting because he does a great voice for this, pretty much.
So what would you rate this?
I'm gonna rate this an 8 out of 10 for me, pretty much. This is one of my favorite ones to watch. Not just for that, because I like sword and sorcery shit.
Yeah, that's true. I did enjoy that part.
Which brings us to our next sketch with another character who's based off of a comic character from the magazine.
Yes.
Captain Stern.
Or as I like to call him, Captain Asshole.
That's like basically what he is.
He basically is a gigantic asshole.
Maybe we should give some context to why he's an asshole now. So, we're on this admittedly pretty cool looking space station.
This space station is huge, by the way. I'm sensing like different, like multiple, like little, like sections in this place.
It does look like it.
And it looks like a giant, like atom.
You know what it looks like to me? It looks an awful lot like one of the spaceships from 2001: Space Odyssey, actually. That's actually not a coincidence. They did say Kubrick was a main inspiration for this one, apparently. So, we're in this sort of spaceport, I think?
It's a spaceport, yeah.
I guess. And we meet another great Canadian voice actor doing this, my man John Vernon.
Yes.
So, I know you little fart. Alright, now excuse me, I gotta deal with Animal House! And then afterwards he's gonna fight some killer clowns from outer space, I bet.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's basically, I think, a judge or something? Or no, it's the prosecutor.
He's the prosecutor. He's the one who reads the charges.
Say, by the way, how many charges did you count with Captain Stern?
With Captain Stern, I tallied like how many like charges
were brought up against him.
He had 104.
Wow.
104 charges.
One of them being a moving violation.
Well, one of the biggest charges on his account was a rape charge. He had 37 rapes.
Damn, eat your heart out, Jerry Brunos.
So yeah, this guy can go fuck off and die, in my regard.
Yeah, and how does he plead?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Somebody strangle this motherfucker.
Is it me, or does Captain Stern kind of look like Captain Quark from Ratchet and Clank a little bit?
Oh.
He took his mask off.
Oh god, it's Captain Quark's dad.
Captain Jerk.
Oh, now we know how he came to be. He's one of the rape childs.
Oh, dude, that was kind of dark.
Yeah, I went there.
Oh, she went there.
Anyways, the point being, this asshole pleads not guilty. And his lawyer's like, what the fuck?
Don't worry, Charlie. I got an angle.
He keeps telling him he's got an angle, even though his lawyer's like, this is never gonna work.
I know, I mean, come on, 104 gun counts. I'm pretty sure he's gonna get hanged from the longest yard arm.
So we get this other character who comes in to plead on his behalf called Hangover Fist.
Hanover Fist, that's the guy's name.
That sounds like how he was born.
Don't even. Although, here's something interesting. I do like one thing that is interesting about this scene.
Yeah.
2 of these dudes are voiced by some really interesting actors also. I brought up John Vernon, right?
Yes.
But what if I told you Captain Stern is voiced by Eugene Levy himself?
Yes, you told me that.
Makes sense because he was known to be pretty big in the Canadian comedy scene at the time.
That's true.
And the guy who plays Hanover Fist is Squidward Tentacles.
That's right, folks. The guy who voices Squidward Tentacles is in this.
I didn't even realize that was him, pretty much.
I can kind of tell because of that ugly bug.
Yeah, he's always got a knack for playing characters with long things on their face.
Seriously, this guy is a little, like...
He's got a big-ass nose and a big-ass chin, pretty much.
And elephant ears.
Ugh. Oh, yes, Sarah, I'm Hanover Fist, pretty much. Pretty much.
But what they don't realize is that before he got to the stand, he found Lochnar, which had shrunk down
So, like,
to
the size of a marble or something, right?
basically a little tiny green marble.
Pretty much.
And unfortunately, as he's pleading for
Stern's innocence.
Stern's innocence, which of course is probably...
Well, he's being, what was it, 32?
No, it was 35,000 Zuleks.
What the hell is a Zulek?
It's kind of like the equivalent of $35,000 in cash.
I'm not a space economist, so I wouldn't know.
Let's not go there. Anyways, the point being, he's being bribed to plead for his behalf, but unfortunately the Lochnar
Is affecting his
is affecting
mood or something?
his mood,
Yeah.
which makes him incredibly pissed off.
Unless you count all the times that he sold dope disguised as a nun. That's my favorite, I think.
My favorite is like he's a backstabbing, Larson is perverted worm.
Hanging's too good for him.
And as he's doing this part, he's
basically
growing.
he's turning into Bane, basically.
Bane mixed with the Hulk.
We should make a movie about that.
Add to the...
Hey, it could be our crossover Marvel and DC.
And basically everything comes out of hand, and we got an awesome rock song.
Yeah, this is a song by Cheap Trick, I believe, actually.
Yes.
They were pretty big in the 80s. And yeah, he's chasing after Stern and his little robot thing, which kind of appears out of nowhere when I bring it up.
Yeah, it looks like it's an egg with an eyeball, arms, and white gloves.
Okay, I guess that's his sex droid, I don't know.
I'm just gonna say this now. It looks like a cartoon sperm egg.
So, he's being chased down the hall. We see some dudes in what looks like British palace guards outfits.
God damn it, even they've conquered space.
Even in space, the Brits conquered everything. So, he's being chased by this hulking thing that just wants to kill him, pretty much.
And this guy, he literally shakes the entire station.
Well, as he says, hangings ain't good for him. Burning ain't too good for him.
He ought to be cut up into little bits and buried alive.
Well, if you cut him up to little bits, he wouldn't be alive, technically. Jesus Christ. But he gets cornered by Hanover now, who now is going to Hanover Fist him, pretty much. It's like, alright, Hanover, you've had this coming for a while.
I thought it for a second like he was going to shoot him because he had like a gun, because why wouldn't he have a fucking gun?
But no, he just pays him off.
He just pays him off. And somehow that calms him down and he shrinks back to normal.
Hey, if somebody gave me that much money, I'd calm down too.
And of course he gets ejected into space.
And Hanover.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Down. and he's gone.
Yeah, we see his body like burning up in the atmosphere.
And the last thing you see is the Lochnar in his hand.
Plummeting into a
planet. And his hand is the only thing that's left.
Well, I mean, if you plummet into a planet, the atmosphere would burn you up into nothing but dust, pretty much.
Pretty much.
I gotta admit, this is... Actually, I like this one because it reminds me of an awful lot of those kind of comedy sketches from the 30s sometimes.
Yeah.
Hell, the Three Stooges did something like this, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but I hate the defense.
You hate Captain Stern.
I hate Captain Stern.
Yeah, admittedly, Captain Stern's a perfect asshole, pretty much. I didn't even know it was Eugene Levy, pretty much.
Well, he's a righteous cunt.
Pretty much. So I'd have to give this one a 7 out of 10 for me, pretty much. Just because I like the cast so much. And the music, and this one's the bomb.
I'll be more fair with this one because there's no nudity in this one.
Yeah, it's one of the few without nudity.
And I'm probably gonna have to give this 8 out of 10 just because I love the comedy in this. It's perfect.
It's just perfect. I'm just chef's kiss kind of.
Yes.
But next we get to the B-17 one, pretty much.
Yes.
Now this one's interesting because before we get to this one, I want to talk about a thing that was cut out of the movie, actually.
Yeah, there's surprisingly some stuff that was cut out from this one.
Now most of it's just pretty minor stuff, like little extra bits of animation that, in all honesty, don't add up pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Because they had to make a rough cut, which I've seen bits of the rough cut. It's okay, they just forgot to record a lot of the music in it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
But there was one big thing they did cut out of this.
Yes.
They cut out an entire section of a short that's supposed to be in it. Now this one was not going to have any dialogue in this one, and it was going to be played with basically a Pink Floyd song, which is why I'm wearing the shirt pretty much. And basically, it was going to show that after Hanover basically is expelled into space, the Lochnar in his hand plummets to a little planet called Earth.
And this is like prehistoric Earth.
Pretty much. And as soon as it lands in the water, it creates basically human life, basically.
So basically, you can thank the Lochnar for our existence, people.
And what is the first thing that these humans do? They destroy and kill everything they see, pretty much.
Pretty much.
And it takes us on this really interesting visual thing where we see like everything from cavemen, the pyramids, medieval Europe, I think parts of the Industrial Revolution. We see Jack the Ripper killing someone, pretty much.
Yeah.
And we even see a little Hitler trying to take over the world, pretty much.
Yep. We see all of that, and it builds up to
the one with the B-17 sketch.
The one with the B-17 sketch.
Now, I would have wondered, why did they cut it out exactly?
Well, probably for time's sake.
I guess, but it makes the film feel a little bit disjointed, I feel.
Just a little.
I mean, that would have been cool to see, and if they had the Pink Floyd song in the background, it would be pretty awesome too.
But either way, it's okay.
So, we're not going to rate it because it's not an official thing on the thing, pretty much.
Yeah, since it's not officially part of the movie, we're not rating it, so we're moving on to the next one, which is
the B-17 one.
Exactly.
Now this one's pretty cool because it's got one of my favorite songs in there, pretty much.
Me too.
Taking a Ride on Heavy Metal by, I forget the guy's name, but I'm pretty sure it's over here.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So, this one's pretty interesting. It's kind of,
Now this one, I'm not gonna lie, scared the piss out of me. We'll get to that in just a second.
It gets pretty scary because we see these guys, and they're flying over what I can only assume is somewhere in the Pacific, pretty much. And they're fighting what I can assume is probably the Japanese if it's in the Pacific, pretty much.
Yeah, during World War II.
World War II, judging from the clothes and the plane that they're driving. And
everybody on this plane, except for
two dudes,
which are in the,
I think
they're in the cockpit, so they're driving.
So that'd be the pilot and the co-pilot.
Yeah, they're the only ones who survived. Everyone else was gunned down like a mangy dog.
To be fair, though, they're like getting shot by all over, pretty much.
Yeah, so
yeah, everyone's dead, pretty much, except them.
I took a body count here. There was, let's see, there was
the two machine gunners.
Two machine gunners, the navigator.
The one dude in the hull, I think.
In the hull.
Then there was that guy at the back of the plane.
The back of the plane.
And then there was the other guy that eventually turns into the first zombie, I think.
Exactly. So that's 6 people.
Dang.
6 people.
They got shot out to hell, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, Hold'em, I think, is the guy's name. He goes around looking to see what happened, pretty much.
He basically goes to check to see who died and who didn't. But in this case,
everyone's dead.
Everyone's dead except for those two. And when he gets to the back of the plane, he sees the Lochnar chasing him.
Pretty much. Which I'm like, why is the Lochnar exactly chasing them? Are they in like a specific area where the Lochnar is like residing, and it noticed it was nearby and started to say yoink?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably, kind of like the Bermuda Triangle or
So
something.
basically, it goes from the back of the plane and goes under and shoots right up into the hole.
And everything's glowing green and shit.
And all the bodies that are dead start glowing green. And then when everything you think starts to turn normal, he goes back, and then we see the first person turn into a mutating
zombie-like
creature. Yeah.
Yep, this one's definitely an homage to George A. Romero, I feel.
I also got like Creepshow and Stephen King vibes.
To be fair though, I think this may have been an homage to another group of comic books, the EC comics, you know, Tales from the Crypt and all that.
Yeah.
Because those comics were a huge influence over in Europe, actually. Particularly on the heavy metal thing, actually. Especially with their horror comic things, pretty much.
Yeah. So when Holden's on his way back, he doesn't know what's happening yet.
Although he is wondering what's with all the bodies missing.
Yeah, all the bodies are gone.
Yeah.
He hears a noise coming from the...
Oh, whoa.
From that little round.
That's the cockpit. Or not the cockpit, it's a machine gun nest.
Machine gun nest. He opens it like an idiot, and he gets dragged in, and he gets
yoinked in there.
And he's immediately killed.
And then we get some, what only sounds like basically bear sound effects pretty much, and alligator screams.
It's kind of creepy though.
Yes, it is.
And Skiff, the other guy,
the Clark Gable looking dude, because he's got the same mustache.
He puts on autopilot and tries to go see what's going on. He opens the door and immediately closes it.
Because those fucking things want to eat him.
Tries shooting at the door, but to no avail.
I'm thinking, do you think a gun's gonna work on these dudes?
So he grabs his parachute and gets the fuck out of there.
I'm surprised he doesn't say this man. Well, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Pretty much.
And the plane crashes and he lands on an island.
Where are these islands? I say that this is some in the Pacific, but I wonder where. Maybe the Philippines, something like that?
Probably.
There's plenty of islands in the Pacific for them to land on.
So he lands on the shore and he goes exploring into the jungle. And unfortunately,
it's a plane
graveyard.
Yeah.
And he's surrounded
by zombies.
And he's immediately like...
I can assume that they tear him apart or something like that.
We assume they tear him apart because they don't show it.
And they already showed too much violence with the Lochnar melting a dude, I guess. Gotta admit, this one, at first, I wasn't too crazy about, but I like it now, pretty much.
Again, this one scared the fuck out of me when I first saw this. I'm like, no.
Well, I think it's interesting because it's based off of a weird urban legend that was happening in World War II around that time. There were these strange reports of these pilots just out of the blue going missing around the Pacific, pretty much.
Exactly.
And it was said because there were these creatures that would sneak on board the plane called gremlins or something like that. Yes, that's where the term gremlin comes from.
Yep.
But, yeah, that's about it, pretty much. So, what would you rate this one?
I actually really love this one. I do enjoy a bit of horror here and there. I'm trying to get more into it myself.
Yeah.
I would actually have to rate this one as my favorite, so I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10.
Ooh. I've got to admit, I kind of am a bit envious that we didn't get to see that cut content, like the thing with the history and all that, pretty much. That would have been pretty cool. But this on its own is pretty alright, pretty much.
Yeah, even if you don't have, like, the backstory into the...
pretty much. Personally, I just like it because I've been a bit of a history nut, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I give this one a 7 out of 10 for me.
Alrighty.
Now we get to what I can only describe as a sex comedy in space, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. So this one kind of picks up from, like, the last one a little.
Technically, yes.
Technically, yes.
Because we see that these events are being viewed on some sort of alien monitor or something like that.
Exactly. And then we get to the Pentagon.
Pretty much. Where once again we see Squidward tentacles playing an uptight dude, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dr. Antrak?
Antrak?
Whatever his name is.
Whatever. He sounds like some kind of medicine, that's what we'll say.
So, we see Dr. Anthrax getting into the Pentagon, and something's going on in the deserts of Nevada, right?
Yeah, now the green glow was seen in the Philippines. aliens.
Way back in the 40s, though.
Way back in the 40s, it's now making its way to America.
Well, it took a long time. Yeah, now it's apparently in Nevada, apparently.
I think it was Arizona, actually.
Oh, Arizona, and now it's affecting people somehow.
Yep, and it's now becoming like a
bit of a pandemic going on.
Exactly.
And hell, even the senators, I'm getting pretty upset.
He's like, hell, my constituents are turning green. They're growing arms on their backs.
You would tell I'm a senator by my stereotypical southern accent, pretty much.
Yeah. So they're in the Pentagon, they're trying to figure out what to do, and they bring in the doctor to try and figure out what...
Explain what's going on. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And...
So he's making this, like, bullshit story up.
Gentlemen, I can explain that there are no artificial alien life in space.
And as he's saying this...
A gigantic spaceship comes out of nowhere.
Pretty much.
And is drilling a hole in the Pentagon, I think.
And, he snaps.
Something's wrong with the duck. Like, he just looks at a girl's tits and is like, pretty.
Well, actually, it's because she has the Lochnar
Which I'm like...
around her neck.
Which I'm like, how did you get that, though? Yeah. Anyways, he goes over and, well, almost assaults her, pretty much.
He basically tears her over the table and starts motorboating her.
Just goes...
And what can I describe as yellow straw sucks them up.
Yeah, giant straw sucks them up. And they're floating around and they end up in the spaceship.
And
it turns out that
the first one to land
is the doctor.
and it turns out he was a robot.
He's just a goddamn robot. Kind of, right?
Kind of.
So wait, that brings up a question. Was he basically sent there to spy and subvert any human investigation on this ship?
Pretty much.
Okay, cool. And then we meet the crew of the ship.
We got...
Let's see, we got John Candy as a Mickey Mouse sex bot, I think?
Pretty much.
Well, he's got the big ears and everything.
So we got him, and then we got two stoner aliens.
Basically the alien equivalent of Cheech and Chong, pretty much.
And one of them was played by Harold Ramis!
I think he's Zeke, he's the green one.
He's the green one.
Yeah, man, you know how it is. He's still got that gravelly voice and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, we miss you, Egon.
Yeah.
And then we got this Pinky who's like, oh, sorry, man, didn't mean to do that, man.
And basically John Candy Robot is freaking out because he's like, you guys are sorry? How am I supposed to fix this guy? He's fucked. So they basically dump the doctor's remains down her chute.
And then they get Gloria, I think her name is.
Her name's Gloria?
I looked it up on the line, her name is Gloria.
Okay, Gloria.
Pretty much. And she's voiced by Blix from the movie Legend.
Yes.
And who also did the voice for Honey, Full and Gump also.
That's true.
And I like this actress because she's always been known to play these characters with high-pitched kind of childish voices, you know?
And basically she's freaking out and she's demanding to be returned back to her office.
But the robot sends an offer and he's like, no, we can't do that.
And the aliens are like, oh yeah, you can't,
Gravity and molecular structures, man, you know what?
And she's like, but I had to see my parents for dinner tonight and my gynecologist appointment
You don't
was
now.
on Wednesday.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so basically the John Candy robot
He woos her.
He woos her and takes her away off screen.
You got me diet soda. So they take off, but if you're gonna take off in a spaceship, there's one thing you need.
You gotta get high.
You need to get high. Hey man, we got any more of that Citrullian Nyborg left?
Yeah, just one bag. By the way, this bag
It's huge.
huge.
And it kind of looks like a Schultz shaker the way they're spraying it out.
It looks like it's like crack, but it acts like weed.
It's a mixture of coke and weed, I guess, then.
Oh, Jesus.
I think they have a name for that. It's called an 8-ball. And not a good combo, believe me. That would give you a heart attack like nothing.
So basically, they spread a lot of it actually on the ground.
He did say go for broke, right?
Yeah, and then they do
nosedive!
So they're off getting high, and then they're basically watching space.
Where we see the Starship Enterprise fly by.
What?
And one of the spaceships from NASA drive by. And I think Sputnik at one point.
I think so.
So, okay.
Again, they're high. It's like, oh wow.
Good night, my Nyborg, man. And what's going on with the robot and the lady at this point?
They banged. They totally banged.
And at this moment, there was a billion fetishes born from this shit.
All I gotta say is, I think we discovered how Dot Matrix from Spaceballs was made.
It makes sense.
These are her parents.
Let's see, she's a robot. She's got a stereotypical New York Jewish accent. Maybe that's why she's attracted to Bart, because she sounds like her dad an awful lot.
Oh Jesus.
She got daddy issues.
Anyways.
But hey, they seem to be a nice couple.
Yeah, he really wants to marry her. He immediately is like head over heels for her, so to speak.
I say we laugh, we have fun, we have happily proficient sex. Why can't we get married?
And at first she's like, well, mixed marriages don't work. This was
the 80s, so
we don't agree with that.
We don't agree with that. You go do you, as I say.
And then she's like, well, I'm more worried that one day I'll come home and find you screwing the toaster.
You just have to trust me.
She's like, all right, I'll marry you. But on one condition, I want a Jewish wedding.
A Jewish wedding?
Oh, I forgot to ask. Are you circumcised?
No, they gotta download the circumcision pretty much. Although it's weird, do they have rabbis in space? Hey, it's like that sketch from Mel Brooks, Jews in Space.
Yeah.
Now we know where they are. And hey, we get to hear some Sammy Hagar music in this pretty much also.
Oh, I love this song too.
Heavy metal, the main theme of the movie pretty much.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on, song is called Heavy Metal, you know it's the main theme.
So then we get to this big ass, what I can consider like a mobile planet.
Oh, I was gonna say it was more like a city in space.
It's huge.
It is huge. And of course, he's like,
these guys are trying to land. Of course, they're high, so they're like,
hey man, I think you're going in a little low, man.
It's okay, man. I got it. You know your expression's fucked, so you just go let your hands do the work. And here's the spaceship. They're going like,
Hey, he said, if there's one thing I know how to do, man, it's how to drive while I'm stoned.
And they land.
Good landing, man.
And have some minor damage.
I like to think though in the ending that they get invited to the wedding and everything.
All I gotta ask is, where's the cake? I want wedding cake.
I mean, do they serve cake? I don't know.
So how would you rate this one? I love this one too.
I really do like this. It's kind of like a sex comedy in space, I call it, pretty much.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I like some lowbrow shit once in a while, pretty much. And this is the right level of lowbrow because it's basically lowbrow and science fiction combined. Like, oh, I'm in heaven.
I will let this one slide for like
in this case, the sexism kind of works for this movie.
For this part of the movie, it works because it's supposed to be very lowbrow. It's a comedy.
It's a lowbrow sex comedy. It kind of makes sense that it'd be a little bit sexist.
So, yeah.
So I have to say for this one, I'd give it a 9 out of 10 pretty much, just because I love the comedy in this one pretty much, and the music's awesome.
I'll have to give this a 9 out of 10 too, only because I rated the other one as a 10 out of 10.
Alright.
So this is like my second favorite.
Now let's go find some nylon. We'll do it later. We'll do some of that later.
So then we get the last portion of the movie.
Now this one's interesting because it feels like the movie's been building up to this one pretty much.
Exactly.
Because if you've seen any cover of the poster, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
This lady.
Tarna. Now she was basically like the poster child for a lot of heavy metal comics in the 80s and 70s. Mm-hmm. She was everywhere. Even today, they're still making new ones with her, basically.
Yep.
Kind of. It's weird.
Anyways, let's get into this part.
So, and now, theory time. Where does this take place?
Didn't you think it was Earth?
I have a theory that this is thousands, if not millions of years into the future. After all the wars, disasters, alien invasions, after all that, Earth is just left as basically nothing more but a husk, basically. And maybe the only humans that are left are either humans that came back to Earth or humans that stayed there way past all the colonization of the other planets, pretty much. At least that's my theory. But you brought up a theory that you thought it might be actually a different planet, maybe.
Well, it doesn't really look like Earth.
I suppose, yeah.
And even if it was Earth, there's no really, I don't know, indicator to prove that.
So do you think this is set way before the Lochnar came to Earth?
No, this is probably its future.
Maybe. It's hard to say because there's some time displacement thing, but that's not important. What is important is we finally see where the Lochnar finally lands, actually.
Exactly.
In some sort of volcano, I think.
Well, I think it was a mountain, but it turned itself into a volcano.
And then we see these Mad Max looking rejects coming and looking at it, pretty much.
Pretty much.
And why did they go there?
Well, they saw it fall from the sky. They wanted a closer look at it for some godly fucking reason.
As I've learned from many a movie, never go towards giant green gold glowing lights. Nothing good ever comes from that. Ever.
And of course, once they're all like near like the bottom of the mountain, it erupts.
Spilling this green snot everywhere that covers everyone.
Pretty much.
And hey, it gave the leader dude a pretty cool helmet he didn't have.
Yeah, like he didn't have a helmet like before he was turned into a mutant.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm like, where did you get the helmet?
I guess the Lochnar made the helmet for him.
Yeah, fuck it.
And so anyways, they're turned into mutants, and they attack what looks to be like one of the only safe places on this, wherever this is pretty much.
Exactly.
The Citadel, it's called.
And it's basically just filled with what they put as scientists and engineers.
Or politicians.
Pretty much. So they're not fighters.
And they get slaughtered like pigs, pretty much.
Yep.
Then again, it seems to be pretty easy when all the bad guys have spears, axes, and some sort of harpoon gun things.
I call them spike weapons.
Spear guns. Anywho, so we meet the leader, who looks like he lost a bet and had to shave like the middle part of his hair and his middle chin, pretty much.
Yeah, but it's weird because he doesn't really have eyes.
Maybe he had something to do for him. So they can't fight these guys, but they know someone who can, pretty much.
And it's Tarnak.
Well, no, it's not Tarnak, because Tarnak and most of the Terrakians are dead, pretty much.
Yeah.
So they have to call the last of the Terrakians.
Yeah.
Tarna.
And apparently the only way to contact her is through the mind.
Well, they have to chant to her, basically, to summon her.
Yeah, basically.
But they took a really bad time because they're getting their version of Grodd, basically, to break down the Citadel doors.
And they had a really, really weak door system.
Well, all they had to do was get this dude with no pants to put the door thing up.
Well, he's got like underwear or something, a Speedo on.
Would you wear that in public?
Fuck no.
Exactly. There's my point. Anywho, so adult Caillou gets killed and everyone gets murdered, pretty much.
Pretty much.
And then we see basically a very long shot of this cloaked figure riding this, what I can only describe as a grown-up version of Petrie from The Land Before Time, pretty much.
It kind of reminds me more like a roasted chicken.
Kind of.
Except it's been given like
a head.
Like a head.
And feet.
Yes.
And it has been completely plucked of its wings.
Well, it looks like before you cook it.
Okay.
Like it's just a raw chicken.
Yeah. Anyways, we get this long shot where I'm pretty sure the directors are saying, look, we paid a lot of money for this animation, so you were going to watch it, damn it.
I thought it was pretty cool, and the music totally reminded me of the Black Cauldron.
Actually, there are a lot of comparisons to the Black Cauldron. In fact, are we sure that the Bulbul isn't just like the Lochnar, but pissed off at Princess Lonely now, pretty much?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just something else.
Up next on Film Theory is the Lochnar, the Bulbul. So we get her flying, we get the person flying through all these scenery, including the giant skeleton of what looks to be like a dragon, I think, or something.
Yeah, that was cool.
It makes me wonder, why didn't we get a film about that? That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You can get it, Godzilla versus giant dragon thing.
No, the Lochnar could have taken its form in the bones.
Maybe. But anywho, so we get into basically the center of the earth or whatever this is, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we see this giant altar of the Terrakian race, pretty much. And we find out who the person in the hood is, and I can't believe it. It's a lady.
And once again, we're back to a
Nudity.
shot.
Yes, this is Tarna, basically. She's the last of the Terrakian race, pretty much. And they're a warrior race that are meant to serve and protect, pretty much.
So she basically takes off her robe and,
She has to swim into the giant pool thing, right?
That's an awesome pool.
Well, it really begs the question, why don't you just walk around it?
The point is you're supposed to swim through it as a way to show how much you're willing to endure.
And also get her nice and wet, also. So we get her to the giant altar to Tarnak and everything. Mm-hmm. And she puts on her valiant... It's fetish gear, right?
Fetish gear.
That's fetish gear she's wearing into battle.
Come on, you can't protect any part of your body except for your legs and your fucking shoulder.
Yeah.
And maybe your gloved hand.
Fantasy armor for women is kind of stupid, though, so yeah.
Yeah, to those who invent
fantasy armor
for women, go fuck yourself.
I mean, she'll be protected if she takes an arrow to the boob, I guess.
No, she won't.
Okay,
That's not armor. That black stuff she's wearing is not armor.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's
like cloth.
Cloth. Maybe, I don't know. She has that little arm thingy.
That's the only part of her that will get her protected, besides her stupid legs.
And she's wearing stilettos in the battle.
For fuck's sake.
Because wearing high heels in the battle is a good choice.
No, it's not.
Yeah. But she remembers her sacred oath. What was it again? It was...
I forget.
I think it's... We are here to preserve, basically... They're here to preserve the preservation of life. And when that life is taken unnecessarily or unwillingly, then it is not to protect, but to avenge.
Hello, Molly.
Hey, like Molly here. So, Molly, as you know, we get back to the Citadel. Everyone's been slaughtered, pretty much.
And the place has been overrun.
So Tarna now realizes she can't protect these people, but she can damn well avenge these people.
Exactly.
And then we get to, well, I think it's like a Wild Western kind of setting thing, kind of. I don't know.
Basically, she finds that medallion
that all of the mutants were wearing.
Exactly, in the hands of the once alive
leader of the
Citadel, who now has his head chopped off.
Pretty much. And she rides at this bar to go looking for answers.
And what I can describe as bats. They're bats. They're mutant bats.
And we listened to a pretty cool Devo song.
Yes.
Living through being cool.
So if anybody who's ever seen like the SpongeBob memes or whatever, you now know where it came from.
I'm surprised it came from here. Then again, this movie was pretty influential, so...
So yeah.
So, now we're here, and we got these mutants, and unfortunately, because she's wearing fetish gear, well...
Of course she's gonna...
Get harassed.
Because apparently she should be wearing that.
Don't worry.
Look, just let her wear this, okay?
Let her wear this or she'll chop off your head with her sword.
Yeah, she literally takes out 2 guys with one swing. If she took out all 3 of them, I'd say she's got a badass claymore there, but she didn't, so...
I mean, it looks like a typical medieval style broadsword.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mixed with the flexibility of a katana. So, she kills these dumb dudes. She asks the guy where she can find more of these medallions. And I think they said it was past some sort of oasis.
Yeah, apparently there's an oasis, and then she just keeps going on further towards the green glow. But of course, as soon as she flies near the oasis, she's immediately captured.
Not really that impressive when you get captured by a common net, really.
Especially since you didn't even last 5 seconds.
And they capture her, they take her birthing away, they of course take her clothes off.
And of course, one of the mutants sees the symbol and realizes, oh shit.
It's one of the Terrakians.
Pretty much.
And so he puts her in what I can only describe as a bondage setting, pretty much.
Yep, and...
Complete with whips.
Yep, and he whips her.
Should be thankful that's the only thing he did. I mean, I don't know, I don't want to assume, but I'm pretty sure most of these mutants' dicks would have fallen off probably, right?
I don't want to think about it.
Anyways, so, even though she's been whipped and beaten, she doesn't give up very much.
And she's been basically thrown in some kind of gigantic death hole.
Yeah, something like that.
And they throw some other poor dude down there, and he immediately falls to his death.
And they were so generous to throw her gear down there as well.
Yeah.
Like, thanks a lot, guys. You gave me the things I'm going to be able to kill you with now.
Yeah.
But,
and the bird, who's almost about to be killed, immediately escapes because these guys don't know apparently take the time to shoot a bird.
To be fair, this is one badass bird, man.
Yeah.
He actually helps, actually.
Yeah, this is a badass bird. It's like one of those war horses you see in the movies.
Something like that, yeah. In fact, are we sure this isn't basically a reboot of She-Ra? Think about it. A woman scantily clad fighting people with a sword and a flying beast as her sidekick. Okay. So, she escapes from the death hole, pretty much.
And they chase her on bats with the harpoon guns.
Yeah. And they shoot the thing in the neck.
And they shoot the naked bird in the...
Oh, dude, come on. He's the most likable creature in this besides Tarna.
No, it's okay. He's
tough.
He's tough. He's not dead yet.
He's not quite dead.
Anyways, they fall at the base of the volcano.
And you know what that means? It's time for a duel, mofo.
And the leader of the mutants, he lands down from his bat and he switches his mechanical arm.
It looks like a hand. Or maybe it's his entire arm, I'm not sure. Maybe, I can't really see up his sleeve.
Anyways, the point is, he switches his hand to a
Buzzsaw.
To a buzzsaw.
Which I don't think that'd be good with a sword. I mean, you'd probably chip the thing pretty much.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised because apparently he almost takes her out.
I know she gets cut on the arm, or abdomen, I think.
And that stupid shoulder thing, yeah, it didn't do anything. It immediately gets cut off.
Maybe it's made in cardboard, I don't know. So he's about to kill her, and once again, this bird thing shows how useful it is by biting the dude's leg off almost. Almost, yeah.
You could say that he technically snapped his leg.
But then Tarna gets to show off how badass she can be.
She basically...
She forces the saw blade to cut his throat, basically, right?
Cut his throat, takes off his helmet, and punches him right through the face.
Damn, Nicolas Cage and Mandy ain't got shit on this lady.
Pretty much. So
this dude's dead, yeah.
So basically this dude's dead now, and there's only one thing left to do.
And that's the volcano.
And because the volcano's about to erupt again.
Which makes you wonder, if it does erupt, do you think that will infect the entire Earth, pretty much?
I think that's what its plan was.
But Tarna, being the badass that she is, gets on her battle beast.
One last time.
Wounded, and almost on the edge of death, and just looks that son of a bitch right in his face, holds aloft her sword to the air, summons down the lightning, and boom!
And basically destroys the Lochnar right then and there.
Which also somehow destroys the Lochnar in the house also.
Which is why I like to think that was the future.
Or was it the past? It's hard to tell.
Who knows?
The point being, the thing's dead now.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, we get one of the most cheapest looking effects in the movie also.
Come on, I can obviously tell that if this was a model.
That's like the way they show the house, it's a model house that they just blew up and put a green filter over.
Pretty much.
It's like, hey Joey, how much money we got left to film with?
$5.
What the hell? What the hell are we gonna use $5 for the final climactic shot?
Don't worry, I bought a scale model house and we got some green lenses.
What the hell are we gonna do with that there, Joey?
Well, we have to do something.
Okay, let's get this fucker rolling, let's do it.
So basically the girl is now homeless and
An orphan.
But it doesn't matter because
her birdie friend comes.
Her bird friend shows up.
And then we get basically a twist ending, kind of, where apparently she's Tarna?
Well, she was and is now Tarna.
Which makes me wonder, does Tarna, like, reincarnate or something like that every once in a while?
I'd imagine she does.
Sweet. And she rides off.
Into the galaxy.
Looking for new equals to fight. And so?
That concludes the film.
That's heavy metal, pretty much.
So, how would you rate this last portion of the film?
The last portion of the film with Tarna, I gotta admit, this is pretty cool. I've always been in for that epic kind of fantasy feeling, so there's that. And hey, I love a strong female character in these things, pretty much. Yes, it can get a little exploitative once in a while, but honestly, I would take this lady slaying fools all day, pretty much, yeah.
I do admit that her character is really badass. I just wish that they'd pick some different form of armor for her.
Yeah.
That's my main complaint about her. Again, the nude shots, I'm not a fan of them.
You could be argued that she was the one that inspired a lot of sort of other heavy metal-ish girls and their leather shit like that, pretty much.
Unfortunately.
But also, I gotta admit, the animation's been good in all the film, but right here, I feel like they were on their A game pretty much.
That's debatable, but
I like the animation in this the most pretty much because it just has this grand epicness scale pretty much. And yes, it kind of feels almost like some of the Mad Max films in a way. I mean, think about it. A bunch of people running around the desert killing each other with whatever they can get. This is basically Mad Max. So, I have to give this one a 9 out of 10 for me, pretty much.
I'm gonna give this a probably 7 out of 10.
Alright.
Again, I'm not a fan of the nude in this film.
Yeah.
I don't really like the way that her armor is.
Yeah, it's fetish gear, right?
It's fetish gear. I'm not a fan of it, and it really takes me out of the movie. But everything else about this is pretty epic, so I'm gonna be fair and say 7 out of 10.
Okay, so now we gotta wrap up the whole movie pretty much.
Pretty much.
Where to start with this one, honestly? This is one of the most epic films we've had to watch in a while, pretty much.
Pretty much, and I do admit I have been watching this on a bit of a binge.
Now, when this film came out, it got some mixed reviews at first. Some critics loved it, others, they didn't like that much. But it made a hell of a lot of money in the box office, pretty much, for them.
Exactly.
It even inspired a sequel.
That sucked.
It's shit. Yeah, the sequel, it's shit.
Please don't watch the sequel.
Don't watch the sequel, folks. Just watch this one. And I gotta admit, I freaking love this movie, man. It makes me love. It heralds my love for rock music, pretty much.
For me, this is for the rock music, for the animation, for the acting in this is phenomenal. Again, the nude parts of it take me out of the film, but it takes me right back in with how great the story and characters are.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to let it slide, so to speak.
So what would you rate it?
So again, I would rate this film with I'm gonna be fair and say 9 out of 10.
Ooh. Okay.
Only because it misses the point for the fact that it is pretty sexist towards women.
Which is what did you ever see that new TV series Love, Death, and Robots?
Yes.
I saw that. It was pretty cool.
Yes, that TV show is pretty good.
And a lot of people have basically compared it to heavy metal because it's got the same basic structure, basically. It's basically a bunch of shorts mixed up together, pretty much, with some pretty cool music.
Well, the things with the heavy metal is that they all had one thing going for it, which was the Lochnar.
Pretty much.
They all were affected by the Lochnar in some formal way.
But Love, Death, and Robots, I feel, is basically heavy metal for a newer generation, basically.
Well, in that one, there's no...
There's nudity, yeah, but I mean, it's pretty equal. We got male and female nudity.
I was gonna say there's no really, plot. Like, they're not all connected to each other.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No.
I don't mind that.
No, goodness gracious, no. They've been doing stories like this for centuries, pretty much. But, that's why I like about heavy metal. It feels like it inspired a whole lot. With its art design, with its stories, all that stuff.
Well, that's because it did.
Exactly, especially.
And it still kind of does.
Not just with Love, Death, and Robots, but even stuff like Brutal Legends, with its art design, its heavy metal aesthetic, pretty much. Or even, some other adult animated cartoon stuff, which we need to eventually review, probably.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I like this film for basically the one that started it all in a way.
Yeah.
Now, there are times where, yes, it can get a little gratuitous with the sexuality stuff, and sometimes the animation gets a little choppy here and there, pretty much.
True, but it does pick it back up.
Yes, so I'm going to be pretty generous myself and give this an 8 out of 10 for me, pretty much.
Alright, that sounds fair.
Alright, and like I say, if you guys are really looking for a cool soundtrack, here's a list of all the artists that were involved with this, pretty much. Pretty much. So, thank you once again for watching our review of Heavy Metal. And if you would like, you can like and subscribe this film and to hit the bell for notifications. And where can they find more of our stuff, Clark?
They can find us on our social media, which includes Instagram, Twitter.
Yes, Twitter and Facebook.
And Facebook.
And also, if you want, you can check out more of our videos on both WorldBuilder Studios and Silversmith Productions. We got more stuff coming out soon. And if you want any more stuff that we can review, please put them down in the comments for us to read and everything. And tell us about how you felt about the movie, pretty much.
And until then, rock on.
Rock on. Hey, one more headbanger from the road.
Yeah, one more.
Get what this means. Alright, you're in?
Yep.
Yeah! Woo! Rock on, my fellow Canadians. Rock and roll, headbangers, and leather.
Yeah!
Let's take a next trip to heavy metal.